This is the Jetting Up Podcast with B-Reich and Bryan Foti. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Jetting Up Podcast. I'm Bryan Foti, alongside my co-host and my man, B-Reich, Brian Riker. What's up, Bri? How we doing on this tough Tuesday morning, a day after an 0-1 start? Jets losing to the Bills 17-16 in heartbreaking fashion.
I'm still hurting, folks. I'm still hurting big time. How about you?
It was a brutal loss, man. And this was just the type of game in my prediction show last week. I thought it was coming week 17, but not in week 1. They did it to us in week 1. It was crazy.
In week 1, it happened, man.
Awful. A lot to get into. Big show today. We've got Hahn of ESPN Radio coming on in a few minutes, so he'll join us. So it's a great episode. But right now, let's just jump right into it. We'll talk about the game. All right, bro, I'll start with you. 16-0 in the third quarter. Feeling great. Defense is balling out. And then it just looked like last year. Fourth quarter, they couldn't close. The wheels come off. C.J. Mosley goes out of the game. Offense is conservative down the stretch. I thought the play calling a little bit throughout the game was very conservative until they got behind. And they don't get it done. So give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, really disappointing, told you on the last show, thought they were going to come out, with a victory. Thought this was kind of a must win with how difficult the schedule is, especially early on. But, just an absolutely gut-wrenching loss. I mean, we're up 16-0, and we're almost fast-forwarding through that. I mean, the defense was fantastic in the beginning. C.J. Mosley with an interception for a touchdown. We'll get it more into him later, but you go to 16-0. We should be up at least 20-0. You feel like they should be up even more than that with how well they're playing on defense. And all of a sudden, like you said, CJ goes out, and it all falls apart.
Yeah, it was one of those games I felt being at the game. I never felt comfortable because the offense throughout the whole day, and that was
we're letting them hang around the whole game.
Exactly, and that's the reason why I'm so devastated too, because this whole offseason we talked about how Sam Darnold was going to be the focus. He said it was going to be electric. I didn't really care if they lose because their corners suck, and they didn't play well in that game. Tremaine Johnson showed the same stuff last year, giving up soft completions. The guy lets guys
we can't even blame the corners.
No, you're not. I'm not. That's the thing.
Yeah.
The defense played well enough to win that game.
1,000%. And they had a defensive score.
And the
beyond
coach,
enough to win.
The coach and the quarterback, it's all about them this year. And the game plan was too conservative throughout the game. When they were ahead, it was a lot of underneath stuff. They didn't go down the field, and when they did, Darnold missed the opportunities. And the thing that drove me crazy the most, and I don't want to kill him because I know it's only game number 1, but with 3 minutes to go, we expect a lot out of this kid. He had an opportunity to elevate his team and get him to a victory, and he couldn't do it. And that's the most frustrating part for me because you want to see this kid get better, and I know the O-line, the preseason, definitely it showed. They didn't play together, and they were rusty. Khalil looked awful. The line didn't block. Brian Winters played bad. The Bills have a very good pass rush and a very good defense, and, they got pressure on Sam, but they didn't go down the field. He didn't make any plays to help them win. I mean, we had 4 turnovers. He didn't turn it over once. We got a safety, and we still lost the game. So, to me, that falls on the offense. You have to be able to come away with more than 8 points, and that's the most frustrating part about it because Adam Gase is supposed to be an offensive-minded quarterback genius, and I saw pedestrian stuff from Sam. He's allowed to have a bad game, but when you talk all this stuff in the offseason, you're bringing in offensive-minded. I really thought we'd be a little bit better on offense. In the first game, it didn't show, and that was the most frustrating part for me as a fan.
I completely agree, Brian. The offense was an absolute disaster. And one thing that, we've been looking forward to as Jet fans, and I'm not saying it was going to happen right away, but when is this team going to ever be an offensive team? When are we ever going to score like 28 points consistently, have drives, be able to move the ball? I mean, it's like we can't even run the ball either. I mean, this guy Gase is supposed to be able to scheme guys open. He's supposed to be a genius. That's what they sold me on. The Denver Bronco Adam Gase that, could move guys around, get guys open, be in sync with his quarterback. I really did not like what I saw at all. I thought it was, honestly, it was just awful to watch. I mean, instead of really getting on Darnold, as much as I think that I will admit he did not play well at all, but, he was knocked around. I mean, he was hit 9 times, sacked 4 times, 5 batted balls, and we talked a little bit about it. I agree. Some of those were absolutely his fault, but when he's backpedaling and, he's constantly looking at the O-line because these guys got brutalized up front. And people talk about how good the Bills' defense is. Yeah, it has some talent, but they're a team that holds teams to low yardage amount. They didn't have an unbelievable pass rush last year, and I like Ed Oliver. But this O-line was awful. The guards got their butts whipped. Khalil wasn't saying anything, and Shell was absolutely terrible. The O-line was awful. They gave us no time. We had no rhythm. I mean, we got a guy like Le'Veon Bell. We're starting to feed him. We can't even get him any time to find the holes and get through. It was absolutely awful to watch. I was super disappointed in the offense, Brian.
Yeah, and I'll go on some of the positives. I actually thought Le'Veon Bell played great. I mean, the guy, a lot of it showed what the money they paid. That 4th and 1, I started walking out of the stadium because he was tackled 3 yards behind. And I hear the PA announcer, that's a Jets first down. I came running back. I couldn't believe he got that first down.
He's so talented, right? He's such a good player for this team.
I thought Gase did a good job at least getting him lined up outside the touchdown. They got him open. He had a couple catches. So he utilized him well. But I was disappointed. Yeah, we saw Ty Montgomery.
I gotta cut you off.
Go ahead.
I mean, another thing about Gase, I mean, they put out a stat that this was his 5th worst game as kind of the leader of the offense. His 5th worst game. And, like you said, I thought he did do some good things with Bell early on. And, Bell did get, 23 touches. He had 9 targets. Like we talked about, he's going to be used heavily in the receiving game. But I think we should start moving him outside, getting him down the field. I mean, the swing routes where he just has to make 3 guys miss to get 2 yards, we cannot rely on that all year, folks.
Yeah, no, they definitely can. And I know we were talking about a little bit off the air. Adam Gase yesterday called out the team, basically. Called out his receivers. You were frustrated with the way Enunwa and Robbie Anderson played, and he called them out, said that Enunwa, 1 catch for -4 yards, goes out with another injury in the middle of the game.
Terrible.
Can this guy can he make an impact? Come on. We just gave him a big contract. I thought he was better. These guys, and Gase has got to get these guys involved, but they got to play better. Robbie Anderson's got to get open, Brad. And then you see Sam underthrew him on that last one, on that 3rd and 1, but then I thought he overthrew him, but
they were off all day, folks. They couldn't get anything together.
Yeah.
Robbie looked disinterested. He didn't even look like he cared out there, and Sam wasn't even looking his way. I mean, 7 targets, 3 catches, 23 yards. I know the kid White is a stud, but you got to give us more than that, Bri. I mean, like you said, Enunwa, terrible. I mean, we're waiting for this guy to step up. He does absolutely nothing. And our guy Crowder, 17 targets, 14 catches. But the most ridiculous stat I've ever heard, he becomes the first guy under 100 yards with 14 catches. I mean, come on.
Yeah, a lot of underneath stuff. And that was where I had a problem with Gase's game plan. I liked a little bit of what he was doing, but it was way too underneath. And there were times that they could have put this game away with one good. They had the safety and the momentum.
We needed one good drive the whole game.
Yep, felt like. And they got it after the safety, and they get the touchdown. But then after that 16-3, they go 3 and out right after that. After Henry Anderson gets that brutal roughing the pad. That game changed there, too. I mean, it's not a big play.
I don't even want to go to the defense yet because we'll break that down a little more. And, we did get into the O-line, but something we haven't even really talked about was, and this is, obviously a huge hole with Herndon gone, the tight ends were non-existent. They couldn't block. I mean, Griffin had, 3 catches for 10 yards on 4 targets? I mean, not even a threat in any sense of the word. So we got nothing out of that position. The O-line was terrible. You know what? Let's just move on to the defense. I can't take it anymore.
Yeah, the offense, we were and that was the most frustrating part because, this is going to be an offensive team. Sam Darnold's got to play better. The coach has got to put a better game plan. But, I saw some good positives from this defense. I mean, the corners, I said it before, they didn't play well. Tremaine Johnson gives way too much cushion.
What's with the 10-yard cushion on every play?
I mean, that's just who he is. That's what he was last year.
He can't guard. Well, it's obvious he can't guard John Brown, but I mean, this guy's making all this money. He's got to give John Brown 10 yards.
It's a bad signing. They're going to have to live with it. It's a bad signing. Hopefully, they can maybe sign him.
Darryl made it even worse.
Yeah, Darryl got a couple of holding. That penalty on that interception by May gets called for hold.
He held a guy and committed pass interference,
and they still scored a score.
Still caught it.
Yep, scored. So Darryl had a bad game. I think he could be a little bit better. Brian Poole played well. So
yeah, I think he got nicked up a little bit, but came back. I thought he did a pretty good job on Beasley. I thought May played really well. I thought he had that really nice pick. Of course, it gets called back. Mm-hmm. And, despite playing well, he has that crucial drop. And Adams, involved early, really disappeared.
Yeah, Jamal had a tough game.
Really disappeared in that second half.
I'm not going to get on him too much. But I thought the scheme was good, and CJ was the best player on the field for both teams when he was out there, and it was tough that he went out with the groin.
The inside linebacker play was fantastic.
Brian. Yeah, Hewitt even played good when
Hewitt
CJ
had a pick, 7 tackles.
Yeah, they played well. And, just when he came out, hopefully, CJ's not out too long. I'm a little nervous with this groin injury.
Soft tissue injury.
Yeah, they're saying he's not going to practice Wednesday, so we'll get an update. I think they may still be hopeful, but Quinn Williams hurt his ankle.
What do you think of the outside linebackers and D-line in this game?
It's just frustrating because they don't have a pass rush. They're non-existent with that.
None.
Greg Williams, I thought maybe at the end of the game could get something where they could get Josh Allen, but it was just weird. He's a weird quarterback because they're running third down sweeps with the guy. And, he doesn't make any plays the whole game, and then he's very inaccurate.
That's exactly what Josh Allen is,
man. And then he makes 2 big throws and runs a rushing touchdown, and they win with 2 touchdowns. So
that's their formula,
That's
man.
why I was frustrated, too, because he wasn't that good of a quarterback. But the defense...
Absolutely. He was awful. He was dreadful in the first half, and they were still in the game.
And that's where you have to put it on your offense.
1,000%. You got to put your freaking foot down and bury these guys in the first half. It should have been at least 21-0.
Yep. I mean, the missed field, we'll talk about the kicker in a few minutes. But, there was just so many missed opportunities.
Yeah, Jenkins had the one nice play. He disappears. The other guys, making no impact. The D-line, Big Steve had a nice fumble recovery, but...
Yeah, but they didn't stop him in the fourth. They let
Singletary
go right down the field.
I don't think the D-line was impressive at all.
They went
Leo,
prevent.
Nothing.
I didn't like that Williams went a little prevent when they were up 2 scores in the fourth quarter. They let him get right down there quick, and then they just...
Well, you could tell Cashman had no clue what he was doing when he went in for CJ. He was literally leaving...
And Gay said that too.
Wide open.
Yeah.
Wide open.
I know, wide open.
For 2 straight series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that drive was tough. They got right down the field within 3 minutes and scored, made it 16-10, and then again it comes back down to the offense. Put this team away, and the defense played well enough to win. And that's
do you think the offense was prepared, Bri? Do you feel like they were ready for this game? They didn't look like it.
I think that's where this is another debate that we could have maybe in the offseason, what the NFL does, because we talked about injuries. This was really the first preseason where guys don't play. And for a team like the Jets where we thought, all right, this is a team that could possibly make the playoffs, all these games are important. The fact that they didn't play their starters it hurts them because now they're not ready to play. So if you're a team, it's a good question going forward. If you're a team on the cusp, do you want to risk playing your starters to get that edge? Because everybody does it now. But if you're the team that does it and somehow comes out unscathed, you have a huge leg up going into game 1. And that's a win. And that's frustrating. What's so frustrating? It's a division game at home against an opponent that you're going to be competing that others say that can probably make the playoffs, and this could be the difference between 9 and 7.
Absolutely,
9 and 7 and 7 and 9, or 6 and and look at the schedule now. Now everybody, I know it's an overreaction Monday.
I don't care that it's week 1, bro. You have to be.
You do. You have to win.
Look at this. And you have to look at the schedule.
I got to bring this up too. The Jet post game. I had to call in. They're talking on. I love Greg Buttle and Dan Graza. I love listening to them on the way home. But they're talking about, it's not that big of a deal. It's 1 loss. There's 15 more to go. I'm like, we just blew us. They were like making it seem like I was.
The fact that we didn't have that recorded is a shame.
I called up and said, you guys are breaking this down.
Brian absolutely lost his mind, and they tried to tell him, that he doesn't understand, how to be a Jet fan. Basically, he doesn't understand. The culture is changing, and we basically lose the same way they have for the same
exactly. That's
50 years.
Now I don't think it's the same old Jets, but for the season ticket holders that go there, we've all seen every Jet fan. Even if you're watching on TV, you've seen that loss a million times where they blow the lead late in the fourth quarter. It just feels that way, and
even with a new regime.
Yep, even with a new regime. And the difference though this year is you supposedly have a franchise quarterback that can make plays, elevate the team, and I didn't see that. I'm going to give them one bad game, but it gets scary because if this is a trend and now they start losing, they got Cleveland coming in here. We know the schedule. It's murderer's row. If they start 0-6, what are you going to say about this kid? Do they check out? The schedule gets easier, but then how do you rate the season when your season's done?
We still have to get to week 7, Brian.
Yeah, but the season's over at 0-6. And then what do you rate his performance as? Even if he plays good, the season was done. So that's why these games are important, and that's why...
Especially early on, yeah.
So, I mean... But we got a lot more to do. We're going to have Alan Hahn coming up in a few minutes. So keep it right here on the Jetting Up podcast. We'll be right back with Alan Hahn of ESPN Radio coming up next. All right, now we're joined by ESPN Radio host Alan Hahn. Alan, it's Brian B-Reich on the Jetting Up podcast. Thanks for joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure, guys.
All right, we're gonna get right into it, Alan, and we just want to see your thoughts and what you were thinking when the Jets decided to hire Adam Gase.
Well, I was thinking that they're looking for someone. First of all, it was nice that they hired an offensive coach for a change. It's only been a whole lifetime, so I was happy about that. I mean, Mike McCarthy seemed to be the most obvious hire because of his experience, because of his resume, the ring help working with Aaron Rodgers. You thought that's a guy that would have been the right kind of fit. But there were a lot of questions about, everything that he wanted with the job and whether or not he had burned out while he was in Green Bay. I mean, it seemed like he was emotional when he left there, so it seemed like he still wanted the coach and had a lot of passion for it. But the fact that he didn't get along with Rodgers and couldn't find a way to get along with him, how that ended. For Sam Darnold, you had to get the right kind of personality. Gase seemed like another guy that you could see is younger, energetic, has the Peyton background, would really focus on making Sam great. Because I don't care what this team does over the next 10 years. Everything has to be about making that kid great. That's really it, And so I know Adam comes in with sort of a spotty record with Miami, but because he's worked with quarterbacks, I felt like, all right, I can get into this. The opening press conference was a lot like Ben McAdoo with the oversized suit, except he had the crazy eyes. And right away, you're like, oh, God. Here we go.
Yeah.
There's already a meme going on with this dude. But as you get to know him and you talk to him personally, and then I see how he deals with the media, he really does. Like, it's hard not to like this guy. Even after the loss yesterday, the way he handled it, how he doesn't talk to the fans like they're stupid. He talks to the media pretty plainly, and I like that. And he put people accountable publicly, which we know that Todd never did. So, in the end, I like the guy, and I just want to see what he can do going forward. But, guys, this is not anywhere near a complete roster by any means. And so this still has to be about what does Sam look like by the end of the year.
Yeah, that's a great way to segue into our next question that we were going to ask. What really are your expectations for this team in 2019? You kind of touched on it a little bit, but, what are your expectations?
Well, I'll tell you what. I think if you get the 7 wins this season, even though it's under 500, it feels like, okay, you're heading the right direction. 8 would be feel good. 9 would be insane. Like that means something crazy happened or something worked out that you didn't expect. Because look at the schedule, guys. I mean, you had the Bills game in Week 1 that was as must-win of a Week 1 game as you'll ever have.
Completely agree, Alan.
Somebody you're trying to hold off in the wild card, and it's a home game as well. And then on top of it, it's because Monday Night Brown at Patriots, this stupid early bye, then at Eagles, then Cowboys, then another Monday night against the Patriots. I mean, the league was doing all it could to tell the Jets, hey guys, you're not making the playoffs this year. We're going to make sure of it. Like, we're not going to let your fans get hung up on a 3-0 start, and everybody's excited just to have your hearts broken like we've always had. So then the 7 weeks after that brutal start, it actually gets real soft. So they do have a chance to get to 7 wins, but that Week 1 loss might hurt it a lot because of the fact that they really needed that win. I mean, you could have an 0-6 start, and the most difficult thing about this is going to be keeping the group together. And then, once again, there's no with Adam Gase. I mean, they've got synergy. They've got to keep this group together through something like this first 6 weeks. And if they can, like I said, my expectations have only been, can they win a bunch of games and start looking like a team that has something to build with, and especially does the quarterback look like someone that you're going to have around for the next 10 to 15 years.
And that's my next question for you, Al. When you just mentioned that, possibly we're talking about an 0-6 start with the brutal schedule. You said Gase has got to keep this team together. If they struggle, how do people rate, like, how the quarterback's going to play going forward with Sam? Because people are going to say, oh, do they check out? How do you then rate him if they're 0-6? The season's basically lost. Do you still rate those games as, okay, he's still playing well, making strides going into week 7 through 16 there? Or does it say it's against weaker opponents? It's not like, how are the Jet fans going to? That's a big question, because when they're checked out at 0-6, I feel like it becomes a whole different, the season becomes a lot less. It doesn't matter as much, maybe, but they're important games for Darnold.
No, that's exactly right. They are still important games for him. How healthy do they stay through if it's 0-6? I mean, could they beat the Browns on that? Of course they could. My biggest concern is Odell and Landry's going to make. They're good folks to just tear up that sector. I mean, the corners just can't cover, and you can't get pressure on Baker, who can run. How do the Jets, not anyone else? We saw obviously the Titans could do it, but how do you contain this team with that kind of firepower when you don't have enough depth, especially at corner? So I worry about that game, but they could win it. Having the Patriots early could be helpful. You never know. Maybe you split one there. My concern is basically how are they playing at 0-6? Because if the offense is coming around, obviously I've loved Bell, which is he can be a difference maker on any game. If they are, let's just hypothetically say 0-6, but yet it's not an ugly 0-6. It's a battle, but just don't have enough versus some better teams 0-6. Then I think if you keep the group together and you're healthy, you judge Sam based on the fact that is he learning, is he developing, are these mistakes or are these issues based on their defense not being good enough? Is it based on the offensive line not protecting him enough? Whatever it is, that's how we'll judge it. Now, again, guys, the next 7 weeks, I mean, you got tons of wins in the next 7 weeks. So this isn't like a typical season where if they are 1-5, 0-6, and like all hope is gone. It's actually not true. There still is something to play for. You got to take playoffs out of your head. You can't. You got to look at it as by week 17, am I watching something that I'm excited about for 2020? So that's how I'm looking at this season week to week.
Yeah, we're definitely looking towards 2020 if, we're going to start out like that. But as we were doing our prediction show, Alan, I kind of had that same kind of mentality. I thought week 1 was a must-win. Then I thought, honestly, that they could potentially lose 5 in a row. And then I thought in the Jacksonville game, they'd kind of get started on this great run and kind of become a playoff contender with, that Baltimore Steeler, I think it's Buffalo to end the year, got to win like 2 of those to make the playoffs.
Yeah, you definitely do. And where's Baltimore at that point with, Lamar Jackson looks fantastic, by the way, already in week 1. Where's Pittsburgh? We don't know. What are they? They didn't look great against the Patriots. And then Buffalo, by then, what are they? That defense, the Buffalo, no one's giving credit. Buffalo's defense is good. The Giants are going to see it week 2. That's the one thing on my timeline, all the Giants fans that had to chime in, I had to use the Herb Brooks line on some of them. Worry about your team. Somebody there to keep you busy. What are you worried about the Jets for? But and they're going to see it. I mean, the Bills, that defense is tough. Up front especially, their corners are good. So what are they by week 17 as well? But it's just so strange when you look at the schedule. It's so lopsided because it starts out the schedule started out with those middle 7 games and then ended with the first 6 that we saw. You'd have the heartbreak of they get off to a great start because they're crappy teams, and then they play the tough teams and they lose, and then they maybe slip out of a playoff spot. That's fool's gold. This is actually, to me, for your heart as a Jets fan, it's like for you. Because it's almost like make that little run middle of the season to give you that. This is almost like the Mets. It's very similar to the Mets, where they're the champions of August. Maybe the Jets will be the champions of November, and everybody will get excited about them again. But I don't know. It's I feel like I'm making excuses, but it's a lot different than the year. Actually, the year after 10-6 with Todd, when they brought back Fitz and they had that same group and Brandon Marshall and that stuff, and you just felt like they had to bring the group back. But man, they missed last year, and they missed in that week 17 at Buffalo. The Buffalo wasn't playing for anything, and that told you a lot about that team. And it was hard to get excited about that team. This is different. I kind of feel like they've got some young players, and it's something to watch. I'm not just watching Sam. I want to see if Leonard Williams is going to show up and play. I love the guy personally, but I mean, did he play? Did he play on Sunday? Because I didn't see him. There's certain guys like that you want to keep an eye on and see are they part of your future or not. But this is going to be a bizarre season for Jets fans. So I'm going to say this, guys. This same old Jets crap, that's got to go. Like, people can't go right back to same old. There was no butt fumble on Sunday. There was no handed off to the other team on Sunday. There was no fake spike on Sunday. Like, this was just essentially not enough talent. The only same old Jets is the fact that they had a Pro Bowl kicker and they didn't re-sign him. That's it. But there's no same old Jets here, in my opinion. I don't see it.
Okay, so how did you think Sam played on Sunday, and what are you looking for him going into Week 2 against the Browns?
I don't think he had a chance because everything was in his face. Everything. I mean, how many tip balls did he have at the line of scrimmage?
5.
4 or 5?
Yep.
At least, yeah. Like, you saw a couple of the deep balls to Robbie. 2 of them were tipped. There's a few others that you saw that he had his receiver, and it was tipped. Everybody, they knew. The Bills were prepared for him. They knew exactly what to do. They always had one guy shadow. He sits in the pocket. He's going to have to learn how to get out of there, move a little bit more. What grade would I'd give him probably a C because I don't think he adjusted well, but I don't think everything was his fault. I think a lot of things that happened were the fault. Gay said the receivers did not do a great job executing their route, and also the line did not do a good job of giving him a clean pocket to look at. There was a lot of pressure on him. Right, the minute the ball was snapped, people right in his face.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was running. He was hit 9 times. 4 sacks, 5 batted balls.
4 sacks, 9 hits. Yep.
Yeah, the O-line, definitely, was not good.
The O-line, like if you think about it, the O-line. All right, so Khalil, I watched him carefully. He looked like a guy that had come out of retirement. And I know he played last year, but you could just see it. Like, sometimes when you retire, your mind shuts down, and then you jump back into it, and you're like, oh, that's right. Like, and you got to get your mind back there. And he didn't really play at all in the preseason, obviously, and he had some practice, but not a ton. He looked like somebody that's going to need a couple of weeks to get right. I don't love Beecham, but you can also see collectively as a group, they really didn't have a lot of chemistry. They were missing assignments. How many clean runs were you getting from the outside? Either a linebacker or a safety or a corner wasn't covered. Like just straight run right in. Like there was no communication, no awareness, not a lot of chemistry with that group. They were just going to need time together. So I don't know if they're just a bad offensive line. I can't imagine they are. They've got too many. Somebody's good. They're good players, but they just aren't a unit yet. That's going to take time.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think the right side's a little weak. I'd like to see guys like Harrison and Lewis maybe step up, or they didn't even activate the kid from USC for the game. But I'd like to see maybe those guys kind of push that right side because I was super disappointed. I thought Khalil really didn't even communicate out there. They really didn't look prepared. They looked lost that time.
No, that's a great point. They did not look prepared. That's probably the best way to put it. And that's why when we come to Gates now, and people all we want to talk about Gates, obviously you get people that are tweeting on Sunday he should be fired. Of course, yes. Game 1, let's fire the coach.
That's New York, right, Alan?
Yeah, it is New York. But I used to get frustrated with Todd because he never made adjustments at halftime. I mean, you never saw something different in the second half or a new wrinkle or anything. There was no adjustment in the second half. It was very frustrating, and they would be flat at the start of games all the time. And that you put on the head coach. What I put on Adam Gase is exactly what you just said. That offense, which Sam told us is going to be electric, that offense did not look prepared. You have to give credit to McDermott and the Bills because I do think their game plan was a lot better than what Adams had. And I think maybe the fact that there's familiarity because he just coached in Miami last year against them, but they probably knew what they were going to do. He probably had an idea of the way he wanted to play, and the Bills had a better game plan defensively than they just did offensively. And that's on the head coach. He's got to be better at that. But there was a lot of lack of execution that was happening, which, again, my opinion, you put that on a coach. Do you know this? I mean, when you're a coach and your player doesn't execute, sure, it's on the player, but it's on you not disciplining them enough to be perfect in everything they do, every single route, every block, every assignment. Like, you have to be locked in. That Jet offense, the defense looked locked in. The Jet offense did not look locked in.
All right, Alan, final question for you. Do they get the win on Monday night against Cleveland?
Oh, God. It's something about that game that concerns me because it could go either way. Like, this is one, if I'm playing Vegas, I'm not touching the game because there's too much emotion. Think about it. Like, so it's Jets home again.
Odell coming back.
That's the other part is you have Odell and a $350,000 watch, and he's in New York. He's at MetLife, so you got all the attention, which for him means put on a show. You got Baker, who also, now I'm in New York, I'm on Monday Night Football. We just got smoked in our opener. No one believes in us. So he's going to have that mojo going as well. The Browns' defense looked horrific, by the way. They looked really bad in week one. So you've got that aspect as well. Now, the Jets were embarrassed, too. The Jets were frustrated as well. So who do I trust? I guess that's probably the question that you're asking me. Who do I trust more? And I think I trust talent more than I trust the home team. So I'll go with the Browns, mainly because Odell will want to put on a show, and the corners that the Jets have are just not good. They're not even close to being good enough to handle those two receivers and contain Baker from running. So I hate it. I hate it. But I think the Browns are going to win this one going away, in my opinion.
All right, that's going to do it for our interview with Alan Hahn. You can catch him on Hahn Solo on 98.7 ESPN. Thank you so much for coming on, Alan. Really appreciate the time.
You got it, boys.
All right, there you have it. We just had Alan Hahn on the Jetting Up podcast. B-Reich and Bryan Foti back here, getting into a little bit of a Browns preview. As we just heard Alan say, he thinks the Browns are going to win going away. Pivotal matchup for the Jets in Week 2. We talked about it in the interview. We don't want them to go 0-6. It's very much a possibility if they don't get a win on Monday night here. Tough game. MetLife Stadium's going to be juiced. Prime time, Baker versus Sam. Big matchup. Give me your thoughts a little bit on the Browns.
So, in the prediction show, I have it down as a loss. I still continue to feel that way. I just think this is one of those teams that we do not match up well with at all. Speaking on that, I mean, they're going to have Odell coming back to MetLife for the first time, and it's going to be Odell and Juice Landry, which are absolutely terrible matchups for us. And I'm expecting big games from both those guys, unfortunately. I think Greg's going to have to do a ton of scheming and a ton of different things to be able to take those guys out, but it's going to be tough for our corners. Their O-line was atrocious last week, but, they do have some quality guys, even though they played very poorly, a lot of penalties. But the Jets have to create some pass rush with that. They got to take advantage of that, and I'm not sure that they're capable, especially after last week, not much going on. And to bounce over to their other side, a little talk about their defense. They have an incredible D-line. Myles Garrett is an MVP candidate. They got the guy Vernon from the Giants, who has a ton of ability when healthy. Sheldon is there. Hate to even bring him up, Foti, but, he's there. And Christian Kirksey, another solid player. And, another thing, Brian, I'm worried about this CJ injury. I'm really worried if he's out. I think the Jets are in big trouble. What are you thinking for this game?
Yeah, I had this in a win in the prediction column, and I'm still going to hold true. I'm saying my man Greg Williams is coming up with a scheme to stop these guys. I think like Alan said, it could be a shootout. I don't think this Cleveland defense is that necessarily that good. They've got young corners, Denzel Ward, rookie Greedy Williams. They didn't play well last week. I think the Jets can find ways to run the ball. Derrick Henry had some big games. There's no reason why Le'Veon Bell shouldn't have a big game. Our offensive line should be a little bit more in sync in this one as far as that. But the thing that scares me, Myles Garrett over there, Olivier Vernon, two good pass rushers. We don't have any of that. No. That's going to put pressure on Sam. I think Gase really needs to have a bounce-back game, have him roll out a little bit more. Let this guy utilize his mobility.
How about some screens to Ty Montgomery?
Yeah, get him involved at all.
Wasn't even involved in the last game.
I know.
Didn't even touch on that.
But on offense for Cleveland, Baker is very good. He's going to have a lot of pressure on him in this game. And that's the big storyline to me. Baker versus Sam. I know you guys talked about Odell coming back to MetLife. But from a Jeff fan perspective, at least it's not a huge story because we don't really care about Odell that much.
Absolutely not. We don't care about Odell.
I could care less. But here's the thing. Baker Mayfield was the number one pick. Everybody thought Sam, especially we did, was the best quarterback in the draft. He's got a lot to prove. They matched up last year.
1 versus 3, baby.
1 versus 3. Baker got the first one last year coming in. Jets blew another Todd Bowles games. You heard Allen. He didn't really like the way Bowles, they come out flat. I agree. They didn't come out flat in this game necessarily, but they didn't make adjustments. And I'm interested to see if they are behind, what adjustments they make at halftime, because they were leading in that game, and there wasn't really much adjustments needed to be made until the fourth quarter, and then CJ went out. So that hurts. But I'm interested. I want to see what Sam does, because there's a lot of pressure on him. You heard, it's hard in New York. There's already some negative comments in the media. I saw Rich Samini writing an article today. The first one I actually agreed with. He said he's got weapons. He's got to elevate them and make them play.
Make sure you put yourself in that list of doubters on Sam Darnold.
I will. I've always been. You saw me last year. I got mad when right before that Buffalo game, I texted you he was a bust. I'm not afraid to admit it. I get scared with these USC quarterbacks. I've seen it with Sanchez. I know Allen said that same old Jets mantra should be over with, but as an old-time fan that's been around 50 years, we haven't won a Super Bowl. So it's a little scary. But I'm really hoping that this kid bounces back, elevates his team, and pulls out a close victory here. Now, I don't think it's going to be easy. The Browns clearly have more talent than the Jets do, especially at the receiver position, and our corners are complete garbage, and we don't have a kicker right now, so I don't really know how they're going to do it, but I'm just going to say blind faith. I'm going to say Gase comes up with a good game plan. I'm going to say Darnold elevates because he is a franchise quarterback. I'm going to continue to believe that. He has a big game. He should be able to make plays on a weaker defense, and they don't have and the Bills' offensive line, I think, is better than Cleveland's. I think they'll be able to scheme up a pass rush. They're going to have the black unis on, the stealth black. Monday night, Jets get a win here and a close one at MetLife. All right, there you have it. That's our game preview. But now it's my favorite time of the show. It is now time for the 2-minute drill. All right, it is now time for the 2-minute drill. Here's my first question for you, B. Will Sam Darnold bounce back against Cleveland in a big way on Monday night?
I'm a little worried about the D-line, and I'm a little worried about the offensive line, but I think he actually will have a little bit of a better game, in my opinion.
All right, was Adam Gase right for calling out and putting his wide receivers and cornerbacks on blast yesterday in his press conference?
I think it's kind of, I'm kind of 50-50 split on it. I totally love that he's calling out players, but I think, honestly, if you're going to call out your players, you got to call out yourself, Bry,
There you have it. Will Ty Montgomery play more?
Absolutely, he needs to. You got to have these two backs in. Let Lev Bell protect. Let Ty Montgomery protect. Let's run some screens. Let's get some action out of the backfield working on these linebackers. Yes.
Final question. Will they sign a veteran cornerback off the street this week like an Orlando Scandrick?
I was thinking about that, and I'm thinking the only way I see the Jets really improving this week is I see them maybe bringing in at least trying a new kicker out. I think it'll have to be at least another week or two until they bring in a guy like Orlando, or another vet like that. Who do you think is most to blame for the Week 1 loss, in your opinion?
Most to blame? I got to go with the offensive line play. They didn't give Sam time to throw, and I'm going to say you got to put it on the head coach too. Too conservative of a game plan.
Okay. Do you think C.J. Mosley will play in Week 2 and be healthy for the rest of the season?
Well, I think he's going to be healthy for the rest of the season. I'm not sure if he plays in Week 2, so I'm going to say no. My gut tells me no.
Okay. Do you see Quincy Enunwa or Robbie Anderson stepping up in Week 2?
I do.
Give me the stats.
Robbie's going to have 2 touchdowns. Quincy Enunwa, big game over the middle, and fills the tight end void nicely. 6 catches for 70 yards.
All right, love the positivity. And our final question. Do you think Sam Darnold will have a better career than Baker Mayfield?
You're killing me right now. I want to say yes, but...
Then say it!
But my gut says no. No, I don't think so. I hope he's the real deal, but not right now. You're not gonna tell me no. Nope. There you have it. That's the 2-minute drill. Be sure to watch the Jets on Monday Night Football on ESPN. Kickoff is shortly after 8:15. You can always listen to them on 98.7. Again, we want to thank Alan Hahn of ESPN 98.7 for joining us. You could always catch him on Hahn Solo, 7 to 10, weeknights on ESPN Radio. And we will be back next week. So for my man B-Reich, I'm Bryan Foti. We'll talk to you again real soon. And always, Jet fans, remember to Jet up.